Hello, and welcome to The Arteries. We're a weekly podcast where we have conversations with artistic people to understand what led them, drives them, makes them want to keep making art. I'm your host, Noël Duplaa. This week, I'm chatting to South African-born photographer Kevin Goss-Ross. We chatted about his finding his calling in photography almost by accident, the best timing for selling your body to medical science, learning how to sculpt light in dark black rooms, and the art of doing cover versions of photographs. So let's get going. Here's Kevin Goss-Ross. All right, Kevin Goss-Ross
is my name. I didn't make it up. Other people have asked me whether I made it up, because it rhymes. You see, people don't trust names that rhyme.
So you're South African. So whereabouts from South Africa?
All over. I was born in Pretoria, which is a hole. Then I moved to a little place called Cantan, which is in Northern Cape, which is a hole. Back to Pretoria, which I've already mentioned is a hole.
Yeah, the previous hole.
Yeah, the hole. It's just dry and dusty. And then moved to a little place called Mthunzini, which is Zulu for place in the shade. My dad works in mining, so that's why we ended up there.
Right, okay.
Middle of nowhere, pretty hard to, be a teenager in that sort of situation.
Yeah.
Get up to all sorts of shit. Hard to nurture anything artistic or creative in a situation like that. Then I moved to London for a year. I wanted to be an accountant at that stage.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, fuck, if I don't have to deal with people, I could just sit in a corner every day. That would be great if I didn't have to talk to anyone. Very introverted. I went to London. I worked at 19 years old. Mm-hmm. No skills whatsoever. I had £400. It wasn't enough. I realized that I didn't want to be broke. I slept in the tube station for a week.
Fuck, really?
Yeah.
You knew no one in London, or?
I did. I had a cousin there, but he wasn't always helpful.
Did he put you up at all, or?
He did, yeah, but it was a situation where I was told there'd be a room for me, and I ended up sleeping on a tile floor for the guts of 4 months.
Shit.
Yeah, it was crap. But it's funny now.
Yeah.
It's funny how being I've eaten out of a dumpster, Like once you've done that, you sort of know how important, a bed is.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to South Africa. I had a girlfriend at the time who was studying graphic design. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'd like to, be close to her, so I'll study that too.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I got into that.
Had you been taking photos at all prior to that?
Fuck all, nothing, no.
Were you doing any music,
no
drawing,
music,
anything like that?
No musical ability. I drew a lot.
Yeah.
I like drawing, but that's about it. It was sort of like, I thought it would either be accountant or designer.
Yeah.
So I chose designer. Yeah.
So literally, yeah. So you're fucking what, like 19? This is when this is happening that you first get into.
Oh, no. So 19, 2006, London, back to South Africa, and I was dating a girl, and she was great, and she was really into photography.
Yeah.
And I was really enjoying the course, the graphic design course, and learning a lot. And I needed a way to take my drawings from the paper and put them onto a computer. Mm-hmm. So I was investigating, the price difference between like a scanner and a camera. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's the same resolution. One has a very limited functionality, and one you can go outside and do other shit with. So I got a camera. I borrowed some money. I didn't even tell you. I did so many weird shit.
Go on.
I tested fucking medicine on myself. It's actually quite nice. It's great.
What was the experiment?
Blood pressure around your lungs, I think. But I did, because I didn't have enough money to pay for my studies, obviously, and my dad, very supportive, but he's Afrikaans as hell.
What does that mean?
It's one of the languages.
No, sorry, but what like as a stereotype?
Stern and no, he's pretty chill when it comes to Afrikaans people, but Afrikaans culture is strange. Like, you work on weekends, and you sort of earn your place, and it's sort of it's almost it's like conservative culture. It's very conservative.
It's kind of Germanic descent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just Netherlands, Dutch, but also is of Germanic languages. My friend Stuart says it's more of a throat infection than a language, but obviously it has that Germanic sound, which is appropriate because it was that language and culture that caused apartheid and ran it for a long time.
Sure.
So it does have that angry, those angry sounds. Anyway, my dad, it's also just all about hard lessons and shit.
Yeah.
And I remember the one day, my dad asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I want to study like all my friends. And my dad sat me down in front of his computer, and he opened up Excel. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, that's good. You should study. Studying ensures that you'll make more money later on. And then he goes, who's going to pay for it? And I said, well, Dad, all my friends' parents are paying for their studies. And my dad's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay. Let's see how much it's going to cost you. And he opened, with Excel open, he goes, okay, so accommodation, this much a month, fees, this much a month, food, supplies, and came to about 100,000 rand, so 10 grand, which is very little. So that's like living like proper poor person.
Yeah. Bare minimum kind of.
Bare minimum, exactly. And my dad, and I was like, well, I don't have it. And he goes, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll lend you some money to go to London and
and make the money.
And make the money.
Okay.
Which at first I was obviously like, you absolute wanker.
Yeah.
You absolute dickbag. But then I went to London, I suffered, and I came home and I worked because it was my cash.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the year, I didn't have that much.
Yeah.
I was homeless at the time, so I wasn't doing that well. And I came home, and before I came home, I enlisted in a medical trial because 2 weeks previously, 8 people died doing a medical trial. So I thought, well,
market's wide open.
Yeah, no one's gonna do it. Everyone started getting paid a lot more for it, and I figured they'd be a lot more careful.
It's kind of true.
So I did that and paid for a lot of my first year of study. So I got a camera, and for the first week, I took pictures of birds in the Botanic Garden, just all week, all day, every day, and I loved it. And it just felt a lot more natural than design came to me. There's a certain, I can't play an instrument. I've tried.
Yeah.
I can design. I'm fairly good at it. Well, I'm good at it. But it feels like I'm forcing it, whereas with photography, it's just there, and it just makes sense to me.
Just instinct.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's obviously everything comes with practice, but the whole process was a lot better for me. It was instantaneous. I'm a child. I need to see results immediately.
Yeah.
I didn't have to draw and then go scan it, and that whole process is very long. Even taking pictures of birds was fantastic. There was a challenge to it. There was a technical challenge. There was a tool. It was less working in isolation, which was ironic because I always wanted to work in complete isolation. I never wanted to see them. Up to buying a camera, I was so introverted that I prefer to not see anyone for a couple of weeks, and it wouldn't be a problem. And then I bought a camera, and it became this thing which forced me to see other humans, because you can't take pictures by yourself in your house. You can't.
They're just not as good.
Yeah. It'll be what? You can do selfies up to a point, and then it gets a bit boring. So I got really involved in photography communities too, and there was a lot of A lot of forums online where people would organize meetups and take pictures of birds. And it was like, it's a nice challenge because you don't need anyone else really. You do it with other people because it's a little bit boring at times waiting for a bird. But I got really annoyed with the whole situation because if the more money you spent on your lens, the better your pictures were.
Okay.
And that was something annoying. You'd have to have a longer lens, like a zoom lens, to take good pictures of birds. And I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have a zoom lens. So I stopped liking taking pictures of birds and moved on to humans.
Okay.
And it was fantastic. Because then there's interaction. You can direct people to do exactly what you want. You can't ask a pelican to pose in any specific way.
You can.
You can ask it. Yeah. So it was that's how I got into it anyway. The camera's sort of shortcomings used to annoy me to no end. The fact that our eyes can perceive a lot more tones. It's got a better dynamic range, so you can see a lot more tones, a lot more colors. Whereas a camera can you can look at a scene yourself, and you can see no part of that scene will be under or overexposed. You'll see detail throughout.
Yeah.
And then if you take a picture of the same thing, it wouldn't have the same range. So some of it would be overexposed, some of it would be underexposed.
Sure.
And that drives me nuts. And I just wanted to look like what I was seeing.
Okay.
And I used to get really annoyed about it. And then I started learning how to add light to a scene.
Yeah.
But
like pre and post?
Pre.
Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly, everything I do is completely reliant on how it was shot.
Yeah.
I could never do what I do in post. It's just not. You can sort of fake it to a point, but it'll never look right. So I learned that if you put a light on the subject, you can overlight the subject and then make everything darker.
Okay.
And once I clicked that, it blew my mind, and that's all I do now.
It's kind of almost spotlighting, like
it is spotlighting,
in a subtle way. Yeah.
It's photography used to frustrate me to a certain degree until I realized I had control of the light completely.
Yeah.
And it started because my first paid photography work was in a nightclub.
Yeah.
It was this little alternative club in Durban, South Africa, and it was called Burn. And you'd always walk up the steps, and it would be Disturbed's, what's their famous song? That song where they go, ooh, ah, ah, ah. Do you know that song?
It's not. No, that's
Disturbed.
Drowning Pool. Who am I thinking of? Sorry, I'm thinking of Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
Well, that would also be playing. It'd be either that or like Marilyn Manson's not Everlasting Gaze. That's Smashing Pumpkins.
Beautiful people.
Yeah, it'd be beautiful people would be chanting on Everlasting God or something. I don't know. It'd be like one of 10 songs, just new metal.
Yeah.
And like the owners there started paying me to take pictures in their club, and I'd be there anyway.
Yeah.
It was actually, I remember having a conversation with my flatmate at the time, who was a human version of a sloth. And he had very little, trust that photography was in any way a real career. He was studying marketing.
Yeah.
He thought that was like responsible way to go. And we had a conversation once about, like I'd love to be able to use my camera to get into clubs for free.
Yeah.
And that was the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And it happened pretty quickly. I went to Burn the one night, I took some pictures, and people seemed to respond to them. It was just wonderful. And then the owner of the club just said, look, we'd love to come take pictures of some of the nights.
Yeah.
And they pay me €30 a night.
Okay.
Which is not a lot now, but if you're a student in South Africa, it's pretty good. And I did that for a couple of months, and then it became, €60 a night.
Sweet.
And
they were just like putting this up on the website, or
yeah, just on their little Facebook page. Like it was perfect for me because it gave me money to be able to buy like proper food and that.
Yeah.
And I needed money to print things for college.
Sure.
And her name was Dee, and she's just fantastic support. It's exactly what you need when you're like a young artist. Just a bit of just a motivation to go shoot.
Yeah.
And it was like, as any metal nightclub goes, it was all black walls.
Yeah.
Or red, if you were lucky.
Sure.
Black ceilings, everything. And all the lighting would be red, and all the spotlighting would be red. And if you're lucky, there was a fogger, but usually it wouldn't. It'd be like stark shithole basement club. Much like Fibbers, basically. The Fibbers basement area.
Gotcha,
And so it was the hardest place in Durban, I thought, to shoot, and a lot of people probably thought that. It was like generally what you do if you take pictures of bands at night in South Africa. The rules are very relaxed. You can use flash if you want. Here, there's a lot of rules against it. So normally what you do is put a flash on your camera, and you wouldn't face the flash to the band because you don't want to distract them. You wouldn't want to blind them. If light's coming from the camera, it looks shit anyway. So what you do is you bounce it off a ceiling.
Sure.
And now if the ceilings are black, it just sucks the light. So it was black ceilings. It was really tough, but I always maintained, if I can learn it here, I can do it anyway.
Yeah.
And over the years, I did for a couple of years. I learned all the tricks. I learned how to make a photograph when the one thing you need, light, isn't there. Red doesn't register on a camera sensor properly. It doesn't.
How do you mean?
If for some reason, if you shine a red light on someone and you take a picture, you don't get the same amount of tonal values. Generally, tonal values, luminosity works from as value of 0 to 255 on the RGB spectrum, which is the spectrum of light that we work with. And for some reason, it just flattens it. If you take a picture of a red spotlight on a musician, and you make it black and white in Photoshop, it'll just be grey.
Okay.
It's gross. So, I learned to overexpose, or to sort of make that light just go away by underexposing the photograph completely.
Okay.
So when you took a picture without flash, it would just be black, just because I wanted to get rid of the red.
Yeah.
And then I'd add a flash on top of my camera, bounce it off the black ceiling, and sometimes you'd hit a spot of grey, and you'd get an exposure that looked good.
Okay.
It was also cool to be able to work in the cover of darkness.
Yeah.
Because at that time too, I was fairly introverted. I didn't like speaking to people. I was nervous even shooting a gig, even though it's like you don't have to really interact with anyone.
Yeah.
You're sort of anonymous. People let you into the front if you need to because you've got a camera. It's like a great passport to do whatever the fuck you want. But it was just a wonderful opportunity to sort of shoot people without having to actually interact with them.
Yeah.
And the cover of darkness helped. And then also the fact that everything was so dark already, I had the opportunity to add light and sculpt it and do whatever I wanted with it. Whereas when you shoot during the daytime, it's like shooting on a canvas that already has a bunch of shit on it.
Right.
If you shoot at night, that canvas is completely black, which means white in photography.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful way to start. And then I moved from Bern to shooting a lot of live music, where people started knowing me for it, which was fantastic. And I started shooting other shitty clubs and pubs, like my favorite place in the world now, a little pub in Durban, South Africa called the Winston.
Okay.
And I shot there for a good couple of years, and I loved it. I loved going there, and I'd shoot it all in black and white.
Yeah.
Because if you bounce a flash off something, it takes on the colors of whatever you're bouncing off.
Okay.
And the Winston had purple ceilings.
Right.
So really got into black and white photography at night.
Yeah.
And photographing the punk subculture in South Africa.
Okay. Was that all what is it called? I have it here. The pub scrap. That series of photos, was that around that time?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Pub scraps, the flop brigade. Yeah, the nude portraits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually came about because like they were all from the Winston. They'd be Winston kids, but I wanted to do it similar to Calendar Girls. You've seen the movie with the old people.
Yeah.
I was like, well, Calendar Girls worked because they were old people, and people don't want to see like old people naked.
It's not the traditional kind of.
Exactly. So I thought like the pub scraps would be great for it because like they're all lovely people, but none of us were in top physical condition.
Yeah.
The one person, my friend Loopy, the night before, someone had jumped on her back and she fell on her face and she had cuts all over her face and she was really depressed. Which I was delighted about because she looked so sad. That whole thing came about because I wanted to do nude portraits of them, and then there was this whole ethical dilemma of, how do I get them nude and like comfortable? Because I wanted them to be comfortable-ish.
Yeah. And
then I pondered on this for ages and asked my lecturers. I was like, how do you make them comfortable? I was like, no, you just have to. It's your personality. And I was like, well, my personality is abrasive at best. This is not going to be good. So I posted out and got a crate of beer and tequila, and everyone got shit-faced, which made them very comfortable.
Yeah. So, okay, you're now working in the corporate world. No, well, my question would be, yeah, I mean, I guess, how are you finding that? Like from a creative point of view, how are you finding that?
Well, at the end of the day, if you're working as a freelance photographer, illustrator, whatever, you're doing it for someone else if you want money. Like, that's just the way it is. I was doing stuff for pharmaceutical companies and I was doing stuff for alcohol brands. Now I'm doing it with a team of people. So nothing's really changed. The only thing that's happened is that I'm in a room now every day from 9 to 5:30 or whenever, with a group of creative people who care about what they do. And it's the first time in my life that I've got a team behind me. Where previously I'd work in solitude. And generally, as a freelance photographer, you're getting, if an agency approaches you as a freelance photographer, the idea is there already. It's done. They know what they want. They'll approach you because of your style or, the way, just basically your aesthetic is why people approach you.
Do that thing you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you're like a social photographer, they'll approach you because you've got contacts in, say, like in media. Okay. So the media will know you, and like picture editors will take your work because they know your work. So what happens now is I'm in a situation where I get to input much earlier in the process. So if anything, I've got more of a creative say on what's happening. Yeah. Previously, an agency would approach me and they say, "We're doing this. Bring your camera, make it happen."
Right.
So I actually really like it. I didn't know how I would react to it. I never thought I'd be employable. I'm doing freelancing for 7 years. I always thought that would reflect badly. My CV says freelanced, Yeah. It's I've worked for amazing clients in my freelance career, but when Thingas approached me and said, here's a job, at first I was a bit surprised, and then I was a bit worried, would I be able to function in under such strict timelines, and would I be able to get up in the morning? But yeah, like having a team of brilliant people working with me and me working with them is an amazing experience it's a very positive thing. I work a lot more, I suppose, as a freelance photographer. You can work 2 days a week and you're fine.
Sure.
But at the same time, what I would do as a freelancer too is that because I'm not constantly producing, sometimes I would sort of reel back from shooting because I'd be like, can I do it? I can't remember if I can do it. Like, it's sort of, there's a lot more self-doubt. If you're constantly busy and you're constantly shooting, you're constantly creating, don't have the time to worry. Yeah. So it's actually, and it's also, it's a different stress, like you'd be working for clients, you'd have to, appease everyone who you work with, for your clients. But at the end of the day, you've got a paycheck coming. Yeah. Whereas, you've got the stress of like, oh my God, I've got so much work, so much has to be done, things, I'm not getting the ideas that I need.
Yeah.
But as a freelancer, you're like, do I have money to buy food? Do I have money to pay rent? That's all taken care of. Those primitive urges are now no longer an issue for me.
Yeah.
Now it's just being able to perform to a standard that I need to.
I would be quite a perfectionist and stuff. Like where like I'm very bad at letting stuff be heard by anyone unless I've fucking perfected it. Do you fall into that? Or are you happy kind of with?
No, it pains me.
Yeah.
It pains me when something's not exactly how I want it, but
Like I kind of got that sense. But so my question is like when you have like a day turnaround, is there stuff that you just have to let go? Like is that stuff that you've gotten better at?
Constantly. I thought that would be my biggest issue.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you work with a team of people, and when it comes to photography, that would sort of be that's my thing.
Yeah.
So I would have the last say most of the time.
Okay.
Which is handy. But at the same time, you can't oversee everything anyway.
Yeah.
At the moment I've let all that shit go. My personal projects, that's where I become anal.
Yeah.
That's where the anal comes out. Otherwise, if you're working in a group of people, collaboration means, it means giving way and letting people do their shit, and realizing that maybe your way isn't the best all the time. And it generally isn't. If you're in a room full of...
I don't know.
Yeah, I used to be a lot more sore about those issues.
Yeah.
I remember Dave from Punch Face Champions.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. The Punch Face Champions asked me to do an EP cover for them.
The beach one, is it?
The beach one, yeah.
I love that.
And they said, Dave asked me to tell him a couple of ideas so he could, I suppose, curate what was happening.
Sure.
And I didn't like that. And I basically just said, cool, yeah, you can tell me what I'm doing with the album artwork if I get a say in the music. Because I can't play an instrument, but that's exactly, it's the same thing, And it's weird because visual culture, people think they know.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they can design something. Everyone thinks they can take a photograph. And everyone can. It's just that I wouldn't question the length of a song.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell you that a lyric doesn't work.
Yeah.
But just because, and I suppose visual work has been democratized to a certain degree. Everyone's got a camera now. Yeah. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone's got Snapchat. Everyone can fuck with typography, and they have emojis, and in a way that's really wonderful because people understand how hard it is, but at the same time people think they know better than you. Yeah. Even when this is what you've spent your entire life, you've dedicated your life to. Yeah. Which is annoying, but it's something you learn to live with, because at the same time people do appreciate how hard it is to do shit properly. Yeah. Now, I remember I got my first camera when I was shooting the birds with the camera. And that was when DSLRs became really cheap. Yeah. And people could afford them. And I got mine right before everyone got theirs. Right. And I feel like that was a stroke of luck, because then everyone got an SLR and they were like, yeah, this is hard. I thought I could just drop money on a camera and everything would look good. And it doesn't. And that was actually really good. And that's when I realized the more people know how hard something is, the better. Yeah. I don't know, when you think iconic photograph, when I think photograph, I think, I don't know.
There's one of yours that instantly springs, but the one you did of the cop with the couple kissing.
Oh,
Which wasn't, is that a reference to
it's a reference to a press photograph.
Yeah.
That's my friend JR. He's a very famous artist in South Africa.
Okay.
And he just won a bunch of money. And he flew me up to Johannesburg, and there was like, again, a great example of collaboration for me, is he had this idea that, you can cover a song.
Yeah.
You can cover whatever song you want, really, but
Awesome.
you can't cover a photograph. And why doesn't anyone cover photographs?
Yeah.
So we looked at some of the iconic photographs in the world, and we were looking, and he started sending me press photos. And I was like, you can't recreate a press photo. There's so many emotions involved, he showed me a photo, I think it was during the Vietnam War, where a man was about to get executed, and you can see, and he's sort of flinching, and there's a there's a gun next to his face, and he's about to die.
I know the one, yeah.
And he wanted that as his cover. And I said, it's just like a little insensitive. And I feel like we can do something similar that has maybe a little bit more like, I don't know, more of a connection to South Africa and more of a connection to youth and, the attitude of his music. And there was a photograph, I think, is during a riot, of a couple making out with a police officer in riot gear in the foreground.
Yeah.
And something that people have criticized me of in the past is like my work is generally someone in the foreground and then some mad shit happening in the back.
Yeah, there's a superhero kind of vibe to it or something.
And so I don't know. He's sent me. This is one of the pictures he sent me. I was like, yeah, that's cool. We could do that. That's cool because there's something in that. It's not just it's not, you're not just trying to make money off someone else's misery. This is a celebration of youth and doing whatever the fuck you want, even in the face of oppression.
So I love the idea of like doing cover versions of photos.
It's just again not my idea.
Yeah,
it just never occurred to me, and this genius of a man just like, we cover songs. But it was also, I feel like as a photographer, it was just like you're pulling something that's very real, as real as a photograph's going to get, and you're restaging it is completely different thing.
I wanted to ask you as well about, you've got that series of photos in India.
Yeah.
What was that, man?
That's actually a funny story because my family and I used to go to somewhere. My mom, my dad, and my brother.
Okay.
We used to go somewhere every couple of years. We went to Australia the one time, and then the next year we went to India. And it was cool. Like, I never felt a drive to go to India. I've never been on the eat, pray, love buzz. And I was shooting a lot of black and white at the time. And then my friend Tyler Dolan, who's a photographer in South Africa.
The guy from Fight Club, yeah.
Yeah. He just said, if you shoot anything in black and white while you're there, I'll kill you.
It's the most colourful.
Yeah. I said, yeah, fair enough. And then as an afterthought, I took my camera, obviously. I wasn't planning anything. I had two very different ways of shooting. I either did sort of like a camera and a flash on the camera, bounced off things. The sort of the Winston stuff we were talking about.
Sure.
It's more photojournalistic. It's black and white. It's gritty. It's sort of off the cuff, real.
It's that kind of noir effect with the black and white stuff, is it?
It's literally it's because of necessity. It's because you're bouncing a flash and so I'm still lighting a scene, but it's not a scene that I stage. It's a scene that's there already. So there's already a sense of fakeness to all of that shit anyway. Right. And then there was something that came from doing music promo for bands, which is where that started, just having lights and like staging a scene to reflect what is happening or something to reflect something of the music.
Yeah.
And the black and white stuff, actually, I did a project for a while called Photographic Synesthesia, which is synesthesia being, hearing, tastes, and
the senses getting crosswired.
Exactly, and it's an LSD thing too. It happens when you take too much acid. It's fucking weird. So it was called Photographic Synesthesia.
What ones did you, like what crosswiring did you get?
Tasting sounds.
Tasting sounds.
Yeah, which is strange. Like the beetle is very metallic.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember just the Beatles as being not tasty. And so anyway, so that's always been an obsession, trying to like visualize music. You know, this is like Winamp era of visualizations
Sure.
and shit. You know, there wasn't a way for me to express it. Anyway, so then I started doing all this like work with musicians and trying to get to grips with their music so that I can build a scene around and stage a scene. And first ever shoot like that was with a Durban band called Tree Houses on the Sea.
Okay.
And they had an album which was based almost completely on a gravedigger's handbook. Okay. The book of which is written from death's perspective. And so we wanted to have a hint back to that, and we had a typewriter, and it was my first proper, like, you know, orchestrated shoots and completely fake. You know, I've made it all up with the band and that.
You're building the world.
We're building the little world, yeah. We did it in a little bookshop, and it went really well. And so that's where I deviated to. So I either did those really colorful. Well, initially they weren't very colorful. They were just very like meticulously constructed versus the real, you know, going into a club that's a shithole. It's really hard to shoot. I'm shooting drunk people. It's all real. Yeah.
Just stylized, hyper real.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where that's sort of happening. And so Tyler knew instinctively that I'd either go black and white with it because it's easy and it's off the cuff and I can really do something real, or that I would do something overwhelmingly colorful. And he knew that Indy would be colorful and be suited for that. And thank God for him. And I didn't have a lot of equipment at the time. I had I use little speed lights because they're really portable and I can't be fucked, you know, looking for a power source.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I used to break 3 of them annually, which is a fairly expensive hobby. And I had one speed light left. One flash left, and I didn't have any modifiers. Now, a modifier is basically something that changes the quality of light from your flash. It would be an umbrella or a softbox or whatever. And I'd broken all of them because I'm very careless with my equipment. Okay. It's a tool. It's a means to an end. I don't care about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any modifiers, so Tyler lent me an umbrella, a photo umbrella. And I took it with as an afterthought. One flash, one umbrella, one camera. And I was there with my family. I didn't expect to do anything. We'd fuck around every now and then. You know, I'd take cool pictures of my brother. And then we got to this place called Varanasi, which is an Indian city. It's one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. And it's a very special place because it's holy for 3 different religions.
Okay.
And we got there and just, it's the first time I just felt a connection to a place. I don't feel any loyalties to geographic coordinates. I don't. Sure. I was born in South Africa. It was only because my parents had sex there. You know, like I love Ireland, but again, it's just a place. You know, it's the first time when I was like, holy shit, this place is different. There's something interesting going on here. And on top of that, it's really heavily polluted, which looks great in pictures.
That's so, yeah.
And it was on the Ganges. It was really odd. And it's the first place as a South African, you have to travel far to find something that shocks you visually. There's all these holy men sitting on the side of the river in orange. Like, you don't understand anything. Everything's intriguing. Yeah. They burn 300 bodies on the side of the river in the open every day. And like, it's nuts. It's a Hindu tradition. Yeah. So, and this happens just in the open. And I was immensely intrigued by it. And the colors, it was just phenomenal. We were there for, I think, 4 mornings. Yeah. I shot every morning for about an hour. And this would be myself and either my mom or my dad or my brother. One of them would come with. And just hold the umbrella, lights, hold the flash. It was so low tech. It was ridiculous. Like we were on a kayak or like a little boat on the Ganges. And like my brother would be leaning over the side with the speed light. And like, you know, if we'd taken a light stand or something bigger, it would have caused a bit of an uproar. People wouldn't have liked it, or because we were traveling so light, just shooting so quickly. Yeah. You know, there was
no time for people to assess it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like obviously you'd have to interact with them and go, sorry, can I take a picture? But they wouldn't understand the idea that you'd need to take at least 3 or 4 before the light's right, you know? Yeah. So you get 3 pics max before they go, fuck this, I'm out of here, I've got shit to do. And I didn't think anything would come of it. I was more interested in maybe like shooting some stuff there and then shooting some stuff in Durban, because Durban's got the largest concentration of Indian people outside of the subcontinent of India, Pakistan in the world.
Yeah.
So I was like, that'd be cool to sort of like compare Indian people in India and Indian people in South Africa and like sort of shoot portraits that look the same. And then I shot all this stuff, and then I got back to South Africa, and two photographer friends, had both been in Varanasi that year, and they'd both, just by chance, been enormously intrigued by it, as I was. And so we got together, we looked at our work, and we're like, yeah, we've got something here.
Okay.
So the other two, the one guy's name is Gareth Bright, and he does black and white photography on film. Mm-hmm. And then what he does is he takes these pictures on film, and he develops them, and then he paints onto the picture in blood.
Okay.
It's super art, you know, compared to me. Like, I'm polished, like flash pictures. He's taking pictures. Like, okay, so where I would shoot in Varanasi, I'd be shooting portraits of people, and I'd like have a conversation with them, and like, you know, whatever. Gareth would go downriver, and he'd go find where the bodies wash up again,
right,
and photograph the bodies.
Okay. And
then our other friend Caitlin Faye Smith, Caitlin just has this sense of empathy towards people that you can see in her photographs. She shoots in color, so it's sort of halfway between me and Gareth. She doesn't use light though, you know, she just shoots off the cuff in color.
Natural kind of. Very
natural, very caring. She doesn't take pictures of, you know, dead bodies. It was just really cool to three completely different eyes on the same place. So we went to a couple of galleries, and we were like, yeah, we've got this collection. And they were like, yeah, cool. You know, like I would have been fairly well known in Durban. Like, and we went to a couple of the highbrow galleries, and they were like, yeah, you can show it here. But like, you know, you're going to have to whittle it down. Yeah. Because you've got way too much stuff. And I looked at the galleries, and they were great spaces, but they're all white walls. And India is not a white wall. Like it's far from it. And we just said, fuck this. Like, we're not gonna compromise our vision for once. It was the first time we were like, we're not interested in this shit. Like, let's just do it ourselves. So we spoke to some friends of ours who had a coffee roastery. Okay. There's this big warehouse called Colombo Coffee. And this big empty space, and we're like, this is it, let's do it here. And they said we can use the space, and altogether I think there were 96 images, which is a huge amount. Like a gallery show, they'd let you put up 25, you know. And we were just like, no, fuck that. India's a big place, it's colorful, it's mad, it's crazy. We want to bring that to Durban because there's such a nice link to, you know,
the Indian population.
Exactly. And then we suspended the prints from the ceiling with fishing wire. So 96 prints, some of them on easels, some of them fishing wire. So they sort of danced with the wind as you came in.
That's awesome.
They all sort of floated around. And and it was great. We just did everything that we wanted. Normally you have to pay a gallery up to 50% of the sale of the piece and pay them for rent. Yeah. And so we were able to sell our stuff at much lower rate. And this was right before I came to Ireland. So I was like, fuck that. I don't want anything after this. Yeah. If I have a single print left, it's a failure. So I sold it for peanuts. And I said, I limited all the prints to 5. And I sold 3/4 of everything, which was great.
That's awesome.
And made a good bit of cash. First time ever that I more than broke even on an exhibition, which is normally what you do. It's like playing, you know, doing an album launch it was probably the best thing I've ever done. And it's still it just still blows my mind. We had close to 500 people pull in.
Have you done any exhibitions since?
I have, but like not. It's always been
within the gallery context,
or within where other people have a hand, or something I'm not quite as emotionally as invested in. You know, this was something that was really close to our hearts, and it's something that we were like, no, we're gonna do it our way. Fuck it.
thanks so much to Kevin Goss-Ross for hanging out and chatting with me today. If you enjoyed the show, let us know. Let everyone know. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever suits. It's genuinely great to hear feedback, and the more word gets out, the more of these we'll be able to make. You can find links to Kevin's work on our website, thearteries.org, and you should go check it out. You won't be disappointed. All the music for today's show was provided by Glomar. The show was produced and edited by David Cantan and presented by me, Noël Duplaa. Thank you for listening to The Arteries.